So I hope that first section was helpful to you. In this section, we're going to compare decimals. So just like before when I had mentioned that decimals kind of live between 0 and 1, just remember that, and sometimes you're going to be asked which decimal is larger, which is smaller, or maybe how do you know if they're equal? So comparing decimals is the skill that I'm talking about right now. The process of comparing a decimal will begin with finding the decimal point. And then immediately following to the right of the decimal point, there's a number. So if you're comparing two decimals, you look at that number first. And if if the numbers are different, then you immediately can figure out which decimal is larger or smaller. If those two numbers, again, the first number after the decimal point, are the same number, then you have to go on to the second number, the second place, which we would call the tens place. And if those numbers are different, then you're going to use that place column to figure out which decimal is larger or smaller. Again, if those two numbers are the same, then you have to move to the hundredths place and look at those two numbers and see which of those might be bigger or smaller. And that process continues until eventually you find one of the two numbers is different, and then you can figure out which is smaller and larger. So in order to practice that, I have two quick examples for you. The first example is 2015 ten thousandths. Notice the decimal point 2015. And I'm comparing that to 2,107 ten thousandths. So I'm going to look at the first number after the decimal point. You hopefully notice that both of those are 2's. So I can't decide which is bigger or smaller yet. I look at the next number. And in this case, in the first number, it's a 0. In the second decimal, it's a 1. So now I can use that information to figure out which is larger and which is smaller. So we would put our greater than sign actually it's a less than sign, because 2,115 ten thousandths is less than 2,107 ten thousandths. In the second number, or the second comparing problem that I have here, I have 3,154 ten thousandths compared to 3,158 ten thousandths. So again, we're going to look at the first numbers. They're both 3's. That doesn't help me. Look at the second number. They're both 1's. That doesn't help me. Look at the third column, the hundredths column. They're both 5's. That doesn't help me. Then finally, I look at the last column, the ten thousandths place value. And in my first number, it looks to me like it's a 9, and in the second number, it's an 8. So I know that in this case, the first number is greater than the second decimal. So that's how we compare decimals. And I hope that that was enough to kind of jar your memory, because you've probably done some of those in the past. But it's going to be important to be able to use that skill as we move forward in Chapter 1.